What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Wise Weekly. We are the two guys from Wise. I'm Mark Airy.
And I am Chad Miller.
We have a very special guest today, Leah Carta. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
C-A-R-T-A, not Carter. Thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we have some really an interesting topic to cover today, to say the least. Mm-hmm. It has been a hot topic for about the last couple weeks since it was brought to the public's attention. So we wanted to take a deeper dive and hear the whole story, basically.
Yeah, and Tiffany was supposed to be here, right?
Yes.
Tiffany Cook, but her daughter was sick, or her son.
Daughter.
Yeah. So, with that, everything that's gone on, how did this...
Let her introduce herself.
Tell
us a little bit about yourself, Leah.
Yeah, so my name is Leah Carta, and I have been a Decatur resident now it'll be 5 years this December, and
Great.
We are, as I like to say, refugees from California.
Oh, really?
Political refugees from California, so don't worry, we're not California, what's the saying?
California or Texas?
I'm not. My kids are all learning all the Texas songs we're working on deep in the heart right now.
Nice.
So we moved here for a better opportunity for our children, and we always loved the yes sir and no ma'am culture of Texas.
Yeah.
So when our son was born, actually what had happened was in California they were allowing boys to start going in the girls' restrooms, and we just kind of saw the writing on the wall.
That was 5 years ago.
No, this was 9 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so we saw the writing on the wall and saw that as a good opportunity to come, and so we landed ourselves in. We started in Hazlitt and ended up in Decatur.
Very well.
Nice.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah, we love it here.
Yeah, that California, my Texas thing, the stats have shown 6 out of 10 people who move from California or any of these blue states to Texas are conservative.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're not you've lived under the yoke of oppression.
Yeah. And it's funny because in the same breath, when I meet someone and they say, "Where are you from?" in the same breath, I have to stress to them,
Right.
I'm a refugee. I'm a good person.
Correct.
Yeah.
See, I meet a lot of the transplants from California and other states doing what I do for a living. And I would say it's more like 9 out of 10, just personally that I've met, are fleeing for the obvious reasons. So, anyways, well, we welcome you to Decatur. And obviously you're doing good work, and that's why you're here to cover the work you've done.
Yeah.
So how did it start? Was it you or Tiffany?
It was Tiffany. So I'll give you the timeline. I'll
Sure.
tell you how kind of everything went down. So Tiffany, God bless her, she really started the movement. And to be honest, I was very naive. I would not have thought that these books were in our library.
Right.
I really took that for granted. And so that was a huge lesson to me. So probably about 2 weeks before Tiffany's video surfaced, we were at the library. We go every single week. We probably are the number one patrons of the library because we homeschool. Right. And so my son is a very avid reader. And my frustration was starting to grow because in the children's section, I was having to go through and literally look up every single book. I would pull it up on Amazon, look at the 0-star review, why I got that. Because I was starting to find that there was a lot of books that in the children's section, so this is under 12, that had the LGBTQ agenda. Yep. And for my family personally, we're just not at a place where we want to introduce that to our children, especially my 5-year-old. But there was board books and things that I was finding. And so I had gone to the front desk and said, hey, because I will complain for a hot second, but I think it's important that you bring solutions to the table. You have to have solutions. And so I went to the front desk and I said, is there any way we could label the spines of some of these books? Just like you do the Thanksgiving books. They have little Christmas stickers for Christmas books. And I said, even, to make it fair, label the Christian books. That would actually make my life a lot easier. And I was told I was not being inclusive. And
they actually said that?
Yes, that would not be inclusive, ma'am, and that would encourage bullying. And in my head, I'm thinking, but this section that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about like the junior high school section. Yeah. This particular section, my 5-year-old's not going to get bullied because I'm going to be with her getting the book. And
That's such a bizarre response.
Yes, yeah. So that was shut down. And because the mama bear was not awoken at this point yet, I kind of...
Well, had you seen this yet?
No. Okay. We're getting to that.
Okay.
So I kind of just tabled it. So then 2 weeks later, we have a very active Facebook group called the Decatur Moms Talk group. And Tiffany had gone into the library. She was just kind of browsing, and right above the Lego section, she had found a book called It's Perfectly Normal.
The Legos section?
Above the Legos.
So right above the Lego little station.
Yep.
There's like where you can create different Lego figures or whatever. So right above that, she starts browsing through, and she is horrified. And thank God she had the know-all to make a video. And so she showed where it was, pulled the book out. And as you open the book, there's some very disturbing things. Now, I want to pause and say that I am the child of a therapist. Mm-hmm. I am very big on educating children about their bodies, good touch, bad touch.
Sure.
I think a lot of parents really miss the mark in that department because they're scared to talk to their kids about those things. But there is a difference between education and body safety and pornographic and obscene material for children. So
and indoctrination and full-on grooming.
Yes. So there was a few alarming things in this book. There was one section that told children that it was okay to have a crush on older people, adults. Mm-hmm. So that was very disturbing.
Wow.
We haven't even opened the can, Mark. So we're just slicing it open. But the second thing was there was fully illustrated naked photos of men on top of men, naked men on top of naked men, women on men. There's a picture of a grown naked man looking at his genitalia with a mirror, bent over, just very graphic. And then lots of grooming references. Very much, they took sex and said sex is about feeling good and it's not necessarily about commitment or like all these values that most of us really uphold. It was very much, it was a casual, do what feels good.
Exploration was kind of the key word, right?
Yeah. So Tiffany took it to the front and simply asked, hey, could we just move this? Could we move this to a different section? She didn't even ask to have it removed. Could you just move this? And they said, absolutely not. And so as she's posting this...
Who's giving these answers? Just
okay,
a general...
so it's not... We had referred to her as the librarian, and she got offended because she's not the librarian, but she is the... I don't want to say her name, but she is the... She's one of the front desk ladies. I don't even know exactly what her job is, but she was the one, and she was also the one that told me I was not being inclusive. Okay. So we had the same encounter with the same employee. So Tiffany posts this. It goes viral. Moms are furious. Furious.
I saw it.
So I had messaged Tiffany because it was fresh on my brain that, I had asked about these other books. Tiffany and I don't know each other at this point, and I said, let's meet at the library tomorrow because I want to see what else is in there. So we walk in there. I've got the consortium on my phone, and there's 89 LGBTQ books between kids and young adults. And so we start pulling books off of shelves, and we're just looking. And that's when we find Flamer.
Yeah.
And
Flamer.
Okay. Yeah. And Flamer is a graphic novel, and the story is of a boy that goes off to Boy Scout camp, and he has a Catholic upbringing, Catholic background. So in the book, he compares his coming out. I don't remember what saint it was.
Saint Sebastian.
To Saint Sebastian.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it's basically this. It's written by obviously a lapsed Catholic or someone who claims to be Catholic, and they. So there's all these allusions and allegories to the exploring themselves sexually that is tied directly to Jesus and the Catholic. It's pretty corrupt as to how it's done.
That's supposed to be their skirt around for it being acceptable, I think.
But there was, I don't know how graphic I can be on this.
Be as graphic.
Okay. Like there's one illustration where there's a shower scene and this boy is on his knees in front of a boy's genitalia, kind of making like prayer hands to it. They have a water bottle and it says put a cum shot into the water bottle.
Wow.
So this is geared towards like 12 to 16 would be this age group. Very wholesome material we're talking about here. So we're looking at this, and Tiffany and I are just like dying. So then we move to the children's section, and we start pulling board books with like all these things. And the librarian happens to put her head out and sees us, and she comes over to us.
The actual librarian?
The director, and she said, is there a problem? And she knows at this point this video has gone viral.
Yep.
And we said, yes, there is a problem. And so we proceeded to have about a 20-minute conversation with her, and I just kept asking, the one question I kept asking was, I need to know how these books got into our library. Right. What is the process? And to this day, I've never had an answer. No. I have not. I've asked that probably 8 or 9 times by now, and no one can give me an answer.
No one will give you an answer.
This is true, yes. Yeah. So she was just very PC with us, and it's really funny to see how the narrative has kind of shifted over time. But she started with very kind of a frightened attitude, like, I know this is like really, just fill out the form. There's a process. Like, I hear you, there's a process. And she even said to me, she said, Leah, the squeakiest wheel usually gets their way. Just please fill out the form. There is a process. And so I wanted to be respectful of that, but I also made sure she knew we were very upset.
Sure.
So at this point, we're talking about 2 books. Okay. So Tiffany and I proceed to literally call the alarm. We had over 100 forms filled out.
Yep.
We get them turned in.
They went to the Wise County Conservatives meeting and we just handed them out.
Yep. So on to that point, you weren't ever affiliated with the Wise County Conservatives or the party or anything. You're just an independent person that found this out, and then you started seeking out people to help get the message out, basically.
Yeah, well, I definitely should say I would consider myself not active in Wise County Conservatives, but I've always been part of the Facebook group.
Yep.
You know, I'm just in the throes of being a mom right now.
Sure,
so
of course.
Kids are little. So we did the work. I mean, literally, you were not allowed to walk through my house unless you filled out this form. Like, we worked hard to make sure that these forms got filled out. So I handed her a stack. And when I handed her a stack 3 days later of over 100, I said, do I need to get more? Because I was prepared to knock on every single door in this community.
Dang.
I was that upset about it and the response. And so she said, well, let's go ahead and start a review committee. So they start the review committee. But then I go online. I don't know what prompted me to go online. And I realized that there's another book that we had not found. So I walk into the library. They must have my photo on the wall at this point because 2 of them beeline towards me. And I go directly to where this book was. I pull it. And that was probably, I mean, Chad, you can chime in. This was probably the worst. It's called Let's Talk About It. And the librarian, I said, have you seen this book? And she said, no, this is the librarian, the director. She said, no. And I start flipping it in front of her. And you can tell she's horrified.
Okay, you want to throw that out there?
Let me point out a couple pages to you. So,
Dude,
you ready for this?
I feel uncomfortable even doing this.
So first I want to point out that...
How did you hear about this book?
So what I did is I went to the library consortium, and they're all, and this is what I hate, is they're all classified under LGBTQ, which really they should be under pornography.
Right.
Well, but here you go. See, here we got a picture of a man with breasts and
So here's, this is a woman with breasts and it would be a man with penis and breast implants.
Unbelievable.
So normalizing.
Oh, yeah.
And then a man with a vagina right next to it. Is that
Yes.
what I saw?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to highlight about this book.
And this is in the kids section for anybody listening.
Yes.
Not the 12 to 16.
No, this is in the 12 to 16.
12 to 16, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so, to give them some benefit, there's some chapters that explain how sperm works, not even chapters, a page.
Right.
The most alarming is there's a page, I'll find it in just a second, but there's a page in here. Okay, so here we go. So here's one about how to properly masturbate, but also dive deeper with your finger or a butt plug. Just make sure any objects you put up there have a flared base. Otherwise, your hungry hiney can gobble it up.
Oh, my God.
And the only way to get it out is to make a trip to the hospital.
Oh, my God.
So there's that. And
as a wife, having a wife who worked in the ER, this is terrible advice.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, this was the most alarming to me. So there's a girl at a computer, and it says, a great place to research fantasies and kinks safely is on the internet. There are tons of people and communities out there who share your interests and have all kinds of advice.
There you go. Just get on AOL Messenger, back in the day. But now, just get on those chat rooms.
And let's talk to pedophiles.
Just talk to those pedophiles.
Yeah. It gets better, Mark.
They know what they're doing.
It gets better. Okay, so then we've got, this is a great illustration right here, okay? And then there's a boy that says, sometimes I worry I watch too much porn, And then this guy, who I think he kind of looks like an adult, says, there's nothing wrong with enjoying some porn. It's a fun, sugary treat.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So I am, at this point, reading this out loud. I don't care anymore. So in the library, I'm reading these out loud to her.
And what was her reaction?
She was a little surprised. And I said, did you know this was in here? And she said, no, and I've never seen that book before. And so I looked at her and I said, do I need to have more forms filled out for this one? And she said, no, just one. Just you fill out one. And that, my mistake, I should have blown this up. Because I said, should I blow this up also? And she said, no, just fill out one form.
Right. Meaning that she would get rid of it from your form is what she was insinuating?
That was the implication.
Right. Sure.
So I did. I filled out the one form, and I said to her, let's be very, very clear. Again, I understand we need educational material in here. And again, I'm a solution-oriented person, so I gave her a list of these are appropriate books that cover these things, secular and Christian. Yep. These would be good for our library, because our library didn't have any of these. There's absolutely other options.
Sure.
Also, I want to point out the dedication page. So the book is called Let's Talk About It, The Teen's Guide to Sex, Relationships, and Being a Human. Here's who they dedicate it to. To whoever needs it, whatever your age.
Whew.
Now, also...
This is heavy.
Oh, I still have to check myself that I've even had to spend the amount of time I've had to spend on this. It just feels like I'm in a... not in Decatur. That's what we would all be. Not
exactly.
here. Not here.
So I'm born and raised here, and so when this issue got brought up in our library, I was shocked. I was very shocked. Yeah. I know the librarian. I know some of the staff, and I'm very shocked at the the way they've handled this. I'm very, very
Us
shocked
too.
at that.
I mean, we would bring Christmas presents to the librarians. I mean, that was like an extension of our family because we do homeschool. And before this, I mean, I was a fan. I would rave about our local library,
Sure, right.
like for sure. And I just assumed that this was not here. So, okay. So then at this point I fill out the form and a week goes by and I get a phone call. And she says, Leah, we've made a decision on the books I was calling to notify you. The first book that's called It's Perfectly Normal, we have decided to pull. So I'm thinking, oh, thank God, okay, we're going to be good. We've decided to pull because we realized that how Roe v. Wade is being depicted is not accurate, historically accurate anymore based on the new Supreme Court ruling. And some of the methods of birth control my team felt were a little outdated. And I want to pause and say that per the library, if you go to the Decatur website, the library's policy is that when there's a reconsideration form turned in, the director of the library, the librarian, she gets to put together a committee of the people that she deems fit.
This is what I understood.
Right.
So when we realized who was on the committee, 2 of the 3, if you go to the Decatur website, they're actually the only 2 employees in the entire city of Decatur that list their pronouns on the website. So we've got 2 pronouns
Surprise,
and 1
surprise.
whatever that are making the decision. They are the deciding factor. It's not the parents. It's not the concerned citizens.
Wait. The committee was just the 2?
The 2 and Dawn,
and
and then
herself.
the one other employee.
Okay.
And I can't.
And she formed, the
She
librarian formed the
Yes.
committee without any outside.
Correct. Per the policy, that's what she's able. So the buck stops with her, and she gets the deciding factor. So she says, okay, so we're going to remove this because of that. And I'm thinking in my head, not one of those forms said anything about Roe v. Wade. That was the
They made
furthest
that
thing.
decision.
Yes. Then she said, we decided that Flamer was based on someone's life experience, and so it will remain as well Let's Talk About It. Now, at this point, I want to clarify, Let's Talk About It, even though it says the Teen's Guide, she did have it shelved in the adult graphic novel section. Okay. But graphic novels, I think, in general, are geared towards kids and teenagers. I know some adults read it, but I would say the majority are going to be teens.
They call them graphic novel. Back in the day, it was comic books.
Comic books,
That's
yes.
what we call them.
So she said, in fact, my board that I put together, they actually suggested we move it back to the teen section.
Wow.
So that was the 3rd book. And so I asked her this. I specifically asked her this question. This is my word for word question. I said, are you telling me, librarian, are you telling me that the Decatur Public Library prioritizes the accuracy of Roe v. Wade over our children viewing pornography? And she said, yes.
Wow, point blank.
There was no like, oh, you're stretching that, or it was yes, period.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was when my pronoun became Mama Bear.
Yep. Yep.
So, because
You became a furry all in that moment. You're now a bear.
oh my goodness, I was set off by that. So, so Tiffany and I got back together, and Tiffany, God bless her, she's behind the scenes, like she's doing all these things. And we realized, so the second part of the library thing is that you can object, you can reject her results.
Right.
So I had to form this letter rejecting her results. But the process is that she would pick another board. And she told me in her conversation, she said, I have a local Methodist pastor lined up. Well, the local Methodist pastor, this one church in Decatur, out of all the churches we could have picked from, he is very pro the LGBTQ agenda.
Yeah.
And so that was the one she had picked, and she's like, and I've already talked to the chief of police, and so and so of course I know this is going to be one-sided. So in my objection letter, I said, this is your opportunity. Yep. You have an opportunity right here to make this right and to have a fair, balanced group of people. So Tiffany and I realized this is a waste of our time.
Yep.
Well, and I think what you're talking about is very important to understand in the process that this happened. This was not this thing where 2 trouble-causing women found this book and they went straight to the mayor.
Right.
No.
Right? I mean,
we did the process.
And not only that, but you went above and beyond.
Yep.
And were even, you were patient.
Gathered 100 signatures to go along with.
Right. I mean, so this is, multiple steps that you're going through.
Yes.
How many weeks on end from where you started to where you're at now did this take?
We've been working on this since September.
Yeah. It's been about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's
now.
been about 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah. Okay. So, so at this point, we're realizing, and also, so she also had we forgot about the library board meeting that they had, and so we were prepared to have a bunch of people go to that, and then all of a sudden the board meeting gets canceled.
Figures.
Yeah. So Tiffany and I quickly realized this is not a good use of our time. We have to go above and beyond. So that is when we ended up at the city council meeting. And thank God for all the people that showed up in support. People spoke out. We had dads speaking out, which I was so grateful for. So I think that makes such a difference. And I think, quite frankly, you were there, Chad, so you can chime in, but a lot of them were shocked at some of the things that we were saying.
They were. The council was shocked. Yeah.
I provided them each with a packet. My husband and I spent over 2 hours putting these packets together. I had to make my kids physically leave my house. I'm like, I don't even want you near this garbage, so just go outside. And I didn't hold back. I read in the microphone what was in these books, and it is shocking. And
let's back up before we got the opportunity at the public forum to address it. Dawn, the librarian, she had already presented her case.
Yes.
So she opened up the city council meeting for 10 minutes or so.
Oh, they gave her 10 or 15 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody else only 3 minutes?
We only got 3 minutes for the public forum, but she had her opportunity, which is fine. Hey, whatever.
And I think it was part of an update. Like, I think she needed to give them like a monthly update.
Right. She's got a budget.
She was due anyway.
She's part of the city, whatever. So, but with that, a big part of it was addressing these books.
Right.
And
she got to plead her case.
Yes, and Councilman Hayes was pretty relentless in his questioning. He was just as disturbed at these images as we were, as anybody.
And he brought that great point that we hadn't even touched on about the library computers.
Internet. That's what I was going to ask.
Yes,
so for anybody listening, the internet at Decatur Public Library has 0 restrictions. You could literally go in there and start watching pornography. It does not block it. That is an astronomical problem.
Yeah.
Huge problem.
Which we didn't even know about until it got exposed.
Jake,
Thank God for Jake.
Yeah. Well, because he was thinking of the line of like, well, look, you put filters on the computer.
Right.
Why would you not put filters on the book? He goes, we don't put filters.
That threw him off. You could see that threw him off because he was like that. Okay, well, I was going to make a point, but no, I can't make that point.
I can't make that point. Now we got to back up. And then he's like, well, we got to address that.
Do we know, because I know schools have filters on the computer stuff. Do we know, do most public libraries have filters on the computers? I would imagine it would be absolutely.
My understanding is most of them do. But, look, we're operating in a world now where Drag Queen Story Hour is at the public library.
Kid-friendly. Drag Queen Story Hour, Chad.
You know what I mean? Like, we've got the twerk class happening in libraries across America. Yeah. So this idea that we've all grown up with and I'm not taking away the virtue of a librarian or because, especially homeschool families, you get it. We love books. We love this housing for books. It's the last mecca. Yeah. But that ideology is permeating the staff.
Well, all of the institutions are being corrupted.
Correct. Correct.
It's happening in every facet of our life.
And where do you go? Where the kids are.
Right.
I mean, that's the best place to go. And I'm not saying there's some insidious thing happening everywhere, but it's a funny coincidence that's where.
Well, it is an agenda being driven everywhere, and there is a reason they're doing this. Correct. It's not just the times we live in. There's a reason behind this. And
so when we went there though, and she presented, she said
she found no problem with them.
That she found no problem with.
So when she got up and spoke initially,
I found no fault in these books, no problem with these books. They were acceptable for the library.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which kind of you can tell again through Jake and a couple of the council members off, and through us off. I was surprised that she.
So I didn't know anything about the council meeting, or I would have been there, but I did get a call. I won't say which councilman the next day, and he was like, "Hey, did you hear about it?" And I said, "I've heard a little about the issue, but I didn't know there was anything going on in the meeting." So he proceeded to tell me what happened, and he said exactly what you guys just said. And I can tell you right now, he's floored. His kids go to the library a lot, and he's absolutely floored. And I heard the same sentiments from a couple others as well. So there is, in my opinion, it's been brought to the right people's attention, and there is some light at the end of the tunnel, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
I feel that way too. I had a great conversation with our city manager for about an hour, and I was just so appreciative how he listened. You could tell he was taking notes. He's so good for Decatur. He's
an incredible human being.
Yep.
Yes, and I also liked that he was really trying to think balanced. And here's what I made clear to him. I had two friends that were hesitant to sign our petition we had because they said, we're not book banners. That's really crossing a line. Yeah. And I said, okay, well, here's what I need you to do. I need you to look at the images. Yeah. People are not willing to look at the images. And I'm like, I know it's uncomfortable, but you need to see what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, there's 89 other books. We didn't fill out forms for those. Right. We didn't. Right. There's
89 other LGBTQ
in the children's
books.
section.
Right.
There's one about two fairies that have a crush on each other. Do I want that for my children? No, not at this age. No. But I also know I don't want Christian books to be banned. Yeah. And so I'd love to share with y'all some of the solutions that we presented to him. Because, again, I think it's important when we have a concern, we can't just be complaining. You have to come to the table.
So the major reason, though, let me back up, for these books is the literal pornography in them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not just the words, but the actual pornography. The
and
other
and
89
the grooming of children.
Of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
the other 89 books that are geared towards LGBTQI, whatever.
Yeah, and see, and I think that you brought up something that we were talking about that we wanted to talk about was those two people that you referred to. We've had similar. Now, of course, the people on the left the very few that are here that are willing to come out and say it are, you're book burning, you're Nazis, just like in.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the good books they've taken out. The amazing books they've taken out of Decatur Public Library.
Where the Red Fern grows is not at the Decatur Public Library.
Right.
That's like a staple.
You're taking out Huckleberry Finn because of dated language. It's like, look, so, we don't even need to get into who's burning more books here. But the fact is that when we're talking about this, and this is not a freedom of speech issue.
Right.
And it never has been. Pornography geared toward children. There's a reason that in the grocery store or wherever, you've got the black plastic over it, right? And you've got to be 18 to buy it. You can't just have an 8-year-old going up and buying that magazine.
Right.
That's never been the case.
For now.
Well,
and a line has to be drawn because, I don't know about you all, but things are moving so fast.
Yep.
I can't believe how fast this is moving. And I just think, what is it going to be 5 years from now? A book in the kids section on how to have sex with an adult?
Yep.
My boyfriend's 38 and I'm 10.
Well, you're exactly right. Right now is the time to draw a line in the
Yes.
sand as a community, and how are we going to handle this issue moving forward? If it's not done now and a couple more years goes by, I don't think we could reel it back in at that point.
really, if you think about it, the line was 10 years ago, and we missed it as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a few of us that were seeing the things that we would get accused, it's the slippery slope. That's never going to happen, but we've seen the steady progression.
And the encouragement in the Let's Talk About It of encouraging teens to consume porn, that was one of the most alarming to me because we even have the studies on how porn literally changes the way your brain works.
Yes, that's right.
The chemistry. And so you're setting kids up for awful relationships in the future and expectations and confusion. And we've seen adults come out that have spoken out about having teen porn to addiction. They were addicted to porn and how it just decimated their lives.
Utter
so the
failure.
fact that there's no gray area. This is very black and white what this book is doing. And so that was very disturbing that she found no issue with it.
Well, and again, the thing, aside from the porn is bad enough, but it openly is pushing the trans agenda.
And there's one
trans agenda on kids saying you may not know, and it's all about making sure that they're confused and
well, to speak on what you're talking about, the trans agenda and kids, there are a lot of detransitioners coming out now and speaking about the horrific effects of how it's destroyed their lives. And they are just so mad that there was nobody, no doctor, no parent, no adult to say, hey, wait a minute, take a step back, let's carry on for a couple more years and see if there's another solution here. They are furious, as they should be. It's huge failure on all of the adults in their lives to have allowed that to happen.
And this book tells you how to have a polyamorous relationship. So if you don't know what that is, it's having more than one partner, because that's super healthy for a kid.
Sure.
And then there even was one section, I can't find it right now, but it talked about how you can find your favorite porn stars on social media and then you can buy their porn.
Oh my gosh.
So it's encouraging them to do illegal activity.
Oh my gosh.
And we pulled the Texas Penal Code. So this was another thing that bothered me. We pulled the Texas Penal Code. It's 43.22, I believe, and it talks about obscene material and the distribution to minors of pornography. And I asked who was that guy there? Chad, help me out. The police officer that was there. He was the chief of the police. He was there. And I asked him, and he said with the library, though, it's an educational institution, so that's how they're able to. I said, because if I were to show this to a minor, I could get arrested for that. But why can the library? And he said, because it's an educational institution. But then...
But where's the line?
Yeah, I'm not buying
But someone brought up, though, they said, but she's not an educator.
Right.
She's not certified.
Right.
She's not an educator.
Right.
And I thought that was such a great point. So it's so interesting that it's, for you it's not okay, but for the library
yeah, I'm not
it is.
buying that line there from the chief of police that there's that protection at all.
So what? So you can just have a teacher bring any video they want? Well, it's an educational institution.
Yeah,
He said that was the loophole.
Wow.
Interesting. So... back to your conversation with our city manager, Nate Mara.
Yeah.
How did that conversation end?
Yeah, so I felt like there was light at the end of the tunnel. I felt heard. I was so impressed. I mean, you could hear him taking notes as we were talking. Tiffany and I were on a 3-way call with him, and he was super receptive, and he just kept insisting, give me a little bit of time, which I understand. He's got a lot of things he's got to check, and I get that. But he said, we will be working on this, and I will get back to you. He was very on top of it. I felt very confident, and I felt very like restored. I felt like not in Decatur, you know, I did.
Yep.
And so I felt really good, and I am very hopeful that there's accountability moving forward.
So right now, moving forward, are the books are not?
They're off the shelves.
They're
right
off
now.
the shelves. Okay.
Checked out off, or they
No,
pulled
they
them?
pulled them.
Okay.
They're behind at the desk.
After the city council meeting, that's what got them off.
And the city council meeting also overrode her policy. So for my rejection, they're going to put together the next board.
Yeah,
which I was very appreciative.
Yeah, they're going to put together a committee so that they and
yes.
they even use language such as diversity, and we need to have a diverse. It's like fine, but they're going to put together, and I don't know who the committee will be, but that way it takes the onus off of the library, and it's now on the council.
I'm a huge supporter of diversity of thought. You do want a board, any board that you sit on, comprised of however many individuals, and hopefully no two of them think alike.
Right.
That's how you're going to yield the best result in anything, in my opinion. I've sat on many boards. I'm on a couple now, and they always yield the best results that way, rather than an echo chamber.
Yeah, for sure.
So after I got the call from the city councilman, he told me everything that happened, and I said, I'm not one for cancel culture, and I, from what I've heard, I don't think that we should go after the librarian's job. As the day went on, and I learned a little more, and then the city council meeting I watched the city council meeting. This was the day after. I watched it. I called him back and I said, absolutely, she needs her job taken away from her. And again, I'm not a cancel culture guy, but we cannot have someone in charge of the library who openly states that the Roe v. Wade issue is more important than the literal pornography in books in the kids section. Right. That is mind-boggling.
And to go through this book and review it and really look through it in detail and say, yeah, that's good. Go ahead.
And I'm openly saying on a public forum right now that I believe she should lose her job.
Yeah, look, and at the end of the day, that's going to come down between Nate, because Nate's our boss; he's the city manager. But how can you have someone? And one of our friends said this: like, we need to trust people to do the right thing when nobody's looking.
You bet.
That's what we've got to have.
And I don't want to spend the rest of my life policing the library.
Right.
That's the thing. We don't enjoy doing this.
I don't feel safe there right now. Like, I do not feel like my kids can safely browse those books after what I have discovered. I was completely naive before. Completely.
Yeah, and for anybody that is, taking the stance of this is book burning, I implore you to reach out, look at this book, look at the images, and then
read the messages.
Read the messages, and then look me in the eye and say, I still believe this is book burning.
Right.
I would be highly shocked if anybody actually did those things and still had that same opinion.
And if you feel they need to stay, I really need you to explain to me your reasoning.
Yep.
Because I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around
There's
that.
no educational purpose to these books.
Especially when there's alternatives. There's alternatives that can do what we need to get across to
Also, here's the thing. So the Communist Manifesto, in my opinion, is the worst set of words that has ever been compiled in human history. It's the most destructive, demonic, outright evil. Yeah. I believe the Communist Manifesto should be in every library, every school library. Yeah. It should be in Mein Kampf, obviously, deplorable, written by Adolf Hitler. That should be in every library. So we're not against these books, and I want the things that are the most offensive.
History. There's educational purpose behind that.
Yeah, well, even in literature, fine, bring the literature, but this right here, geared towards children, graphic depictions of it. It's just, and again, with the trans agenda, I'm not shying away from that, because this openly is pushing the confusion that we're seeing in our culture.
And Chad has been very much so voicing his concern for the trans agenda. I'll give him that for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And for those that are listening, there is a very, very sinister agenda behind this. If you don't believe me, call me and we'll talk in private. I can lay it out, or Chad can lay it out pretty quickly. Well, and it's working. It's very effective. The amount of kids that we have that are identified as gay or transgender right here in the Decatur public school system is, I don't know the exact numbers, Chad might, but it is up exponentially over the last few years.
Exponentially. In the middle school, most girls, before they'll at least say they're bi.
They can't be a tomboy. They have to be bi.
Right. Or they'll just say they're bi just because. Right. And then by the time you get to the high school, then you've got those clusters of girls who are identifying as trans. And again, it's the same thing that Abigail Schreier writes about, where we've seen a 2,000% increase over the last 10 years. And it's these girls, typically they're on the spectrum, possibly.
Sure.
They have anxiety or depression. They've got some kind of, they're dealing with some issues. And one of the solutions that's pushed in books just like this, and by the media and by the medical community now, by hospitals, is that maybe that's what's wrong with you, is that you're trans. And so it's causing these girls, and they're coming out as transgender in clusters, which that's not gender dysphoria. When you and four of your buddies say, hey, we're all trans, right? And then the horrific part about all of this is that they can do that, and then they can go to a doctor, and without their parents, where they can say, I want to get on hormones right now, or my breasts are coming in, and they're making me. Let's get a double mastectomy.
And it's money, so they're not going to.
That's right.
It's money. It comes back to money.
Oh,
it's in every institution.
Well, and the thing is, once these people transition over, they're on a lifetime. Of pharmaceuticals.
It's a $5 billion a year industry right now. Imagine
just for that.
Imagine what's been 5 or 10. So there's a video going around right now of a 21-year-old female who started transitioning 5 years ago. It's the saddest, most heartbreaking thing. She's 90% bald, receding hairline back to here. Her voice is deep, and she's been off of the hormones. She's trying to go back. And in her video, she had this illusion. She said, I don't think my hair will come back. But she still was holding on to, she could maybe reverse course and things would go normal. And she said, nobody told me that what's happening to me was even a possibility.
Yeah.
Much less that it's not going to reverse. So these kids, she chopped her breast off.
Never breastfeed her children.
Well, it could probably
if
never
she can have children.
Right at this point. It has absolutely destroyed their lives. So they're hanging out there in limbo, somewhere in between a man and a woman. You want to talk about mental issues? You want to compare the issues they thought they had before they started this to where they are now?
That's exactly right.
It's gut-wrenching.
And
I'll take it a step further. In my opinion, any parent that allows it,
child abuse.
Child abuse, no question.
Yep. Well, and that's why I've been pushing at the school boards, too, is that this is everywhere. It's in Decatur, it's in Slidell, it's in Bridgeport, Chico, Paradise, you name it. Doesn't matter.
What's disturbing is that Decatur won't take up a policy on this. Chad's been pushing.
I've been pushing since last year.
And they won't even write a policy on it.
Yeah, so did you see the Grapevine Colleyville ISD, what they did? So they instituted a policy, which is essentially what I was asking for, which is at blank ISD, gender is determined by biological reality. That right there, that one sentence covers everything.
Yep.
It protects everyone. It protects the teachers, the students, the staff, the parents at home, and that's it. Like at our school, gender's determined by, oh, you want different pronouns? Sorry
about your luck.
I'm sorry. Now, if you get your name legally changed, well, I'll call you Tim.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you're no longer Leo, hey, you're Tim legally. But until that's legally changed, you're not going to come to school and tell us to call you that whenever your parents may be doing everything they can to prevent this confusion. And now you've got a school staff that is going completely against the parents' wishes.
Well, you see,
maybe in ignorance.
You see in education now, Libs of TikTok is always showing these teachers. And they're talking about, I came out to my kids today, and they start crying, they're all emotional, and they'll talk about the kids' reaction and stuff. They are trained and telling these kids not to go home and tell your parents about what has been discussed.
Correct.
I guess it's coming from their education. I don't know, but it's all in unison, and that is nothing short of grooming.
Mm-hmm.
It really upsets me that we're talking about drawing a line in the sand, and we can't even get our local school to help draw a line in the sand when it comes to this issue. And I believe that's disgraceful.
It is, but I do believe that just like you have, some encouragement and you're feeling optimistic about it, I do believe that there's at least one school district. I believe that will be instituting a policy pretty soon.
One in Wise County.
Yes, yeah. and Decatur, a couple of school board members have assured me that the path is being forged on this, that they're going to do it. So,
and I think this is where too I want to encourage all of your viewers. We can't just let this fall on passionate people like Chad. Sure. Like that was probably the biggest lesson for me. And I think we'll have a conversation another day. But I'm so thankful you really encouraged me just to, not hide behind the excuse of I'm just in a busy season of being a mom, and I'm just because my kids are little. And I just really saw the power of our voices collectively. And we had so many parents show up at that city council meeting, and so. I don't care if you've got 5 children, just, say, how can I help with this? What can I do? Can I make a flyer? Because collectively that's how
Such
I
a
believe this
valid
came
point.
together. Because there was a group of us. There was a group of us that worked on this, and that's how we got to the point that we're at now.
A lot of people think that they had this notion that, well, if I want my voice to be heard, I need to be an elected official or something. No. It's actually totally opposite. Once you become an elected official, your voice is harder to be heard. You can do so much more individually, and the power is in the people's hands. To anybody listening, the power is in the people's hands.
But we got to show up. So when that school board meeting is happening, go there. And if you're a homeschool family, that's okay.
Yes,
you can still go.
I pay the taxes for
You
that.
pay the taxes, and more important than that, because everyone wants to, we all default to that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, because it is true. I am funding this. But the more important part is that we, as homeschool families or public school families, we all know the vast majority of our future is going through the public school
My kid's husband
system.
is probably there.
Yes.
There you go.
It's true.
My kids' spouses
Yes,
or whatever.
my
That's
future
exactly
son-in-law
right.
is at
We
that
have a
school.
vested interest in the community to pay attention to what's going on, no matter how bad it may get. Matter of fact, that's why we should do it even more so.
Yep.
So, and all you do, you just go to the public forum. You can sign up to speak. You can get up there and just read. If you're terrified, you may be shaking.
Sure.
And you just get up there and say, I don't like y'all's transgender stuff. I'm done. Bye. And then you just leave.
Yeah.
That's, hey.
Anything is better than nothing.
Anything's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
So
So, go.
I was going to say, can I share with you all, because I know our time's
Yeah,
up
what's the
pretty soon,
solution?
but I wanted to give you the solutions
Absolutely,
that we presented
yes.
to me.
Please.
So the first one was obviously the removal of the 3 books that we had found. That was a no-brainer. The second thing was the library breaking ties with the American Library Association. And I really want to encourage, especially parents, just to go to their website and you scroll down a little bit and you'll see organizations that they're affiliated with. Yeah. And that will tell you all you need to know.
Yes.
Okay.
So the ALA, if you're not familiar with it, they parade as though they are the library law. They are not a government sponsored whatever. They're not. They're independent.
It's an
almost
NGO.
it's like when people pay to be in the Who's Who. Like you can pay $50 to be in the Who's Who.
Yep.
It's like that. And so
but they use verbiage that makes it sound
yes, they
authoritative.
sound.
Yeah.
And she even referred to that several times. She would tell us, well, according to the ALA guidelines, and it sounds so fancy and whatever, but they're just you have to pay to be a part of it.
Yep.
And then the reason why our library is a part of it is that Dawn can nominate herself for awards, which she has done, and she has won. And and you do get some grants. And that is where I told Nate, I said, I will help you find other grants. I said, we have great organizations, even in our community, that we can get some grants. I will help you host fundraisers. I will do whatever, but we need to cut ties. As a library, you're not required to be associated with this organization, but it is very clear. And again, I just want to encourage people, just go to their website and browse, and you will see that it is very clear.
The
So it's
American
no-
Library Association.
Yeah, so it's no wonder the Drag Queen Story Hour is happening.
They have a
in
whole
AL.
section on how to do that.
On how to do it.
On how to do that, what resources
Hey, you want to do one in
use.
your community?
Yes.
Here's
and
how
at
you
their,
can.
their convention last year, that was the entertainment they had for the librarians.
Of course it was.
So the librarians came in, and their entertainment was a drag show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there was that. The third thing is that, and initially I wasn't pushing this, but I decided I can't trust the library anymore. So I want the spines labeled, just like you label Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Yep.
We need to have the LGBTQ books labeled. And on the other side of that way, if you are a gay family in Decatur, maybe you want to access those books. I'm not saying you can't. And so
Easier
that way you can
access.
have it. But then as a parent, when my 5-year-old is pulling books off the shelf, I can quickly be like, that's not an option for us.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's super critical. And I even told them, I said, to make it fair, please label the Christian books.
Yep.
Put a big old cross
Yep.
on the spine, and you just made my life a lot easier.
Yep.
Right.
So that was my other suggestion. The other one was accountability for the librarian
Yep.
and the staff. I think that needs to be and I said also a full audit of the library.
Right.
Because when I did ask for the labeling of the spines, another thing I was told was, well, sometimes that LGBTQ is sprinkled in, and so it's hard to define. And so I just kind of feel like we need a whole overhaul of our children's and young adult section.
Yep.
And then the last thing that I asked was that the city put together a parent board.
Right.
Because one of the things we found with the foundation board of the library, great people, but they're elderly that just kind of want to check the retirement box. This looks like a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And so I want parents on the board. I don't want the library staff. I want parents. And, even if they are on the other side politically, again, this is not a left or a right. This is right or wrong.
Yes.
Right.
And so of 10 people who vet the books that come in the library, because my thought was if we have 100 books that come in, for just the kids and the young adult,
Sure.
if we have 100 books that come in a month, you can take 10 books, and I can easily research 10 books.
Sure.
I could easily do that.
Sure.
So those were my suggestions. Do I know if they'll do them all? I don't, but Nate seemed very open to it, and I feel
They're all
hopeful.
reasonable. They're all very reasonable.
Yeah.
And I love how You found a problem, but you came to the table with solutions.
And we also suggested that from moving forward, because our trust is broken, that any upcoming events at the library have to be pre-approved by City Council before they are launched.
I agree with that. During Pride Month, it's very obvious up there. It's Pride Month.
Oh
I
yeah.
agree with that. And you know, that's a starting point. It's going to morph into more and more and more. Before you know it, if there's not a line drawn in the sand, there will be Drag Queen Story Hour up there.
Right.
That's just the direction we're headed. How do we know that? Because we've seen it happen all across the country. Yeah. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to see.
Well, have you looked into the Bridgeport Library or Rome or any of these other libraries to see? I mean, I know we can only.
No, this has been exhausting, to be quite honest. I can't believe this has been a full-time job for Tiffany and I. It's been a full-time job, so I haven't, but I am encouraging parents to go to that Decatur Library. And also, part of the light at the end of the tunnel, I want to give a plug for First Baptist Church, because right now we don't feel, of Decatur. Right now we don't feel comfortable at the library. I mean, it's very awkward when I walk in.
Of course.
My son's card didn't work the other day, so that was fun.
Wow.
But my husband went in and got it fixed. But the First Baptist Church of Decatur, there's a sweet woman named Karen, and about 3 years ago, she felt led to open a library. And when I walked in, I did not expect to see what I saw. And she has this gorgeous children's section, adult section of not just Christian books, but secular books.
Correct.
But they're safe.
Yep.
I started crying when I walked in. I was just like, what a relief. So right now we have a place to go, and there's no late fees, there's no fees. You just come in. Right, it took me 10 seconds to do it, and she's got they've done such a great job.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we have that alternative.
Well, and one last thing I'll leave with is that as an encouragement to the parents out there, it's like you mentioned, the board is made up primarily of grandparents. Like my Meemaw, she checks out 2 to 3 library books a week. She's up there all the time. She has no clue about what goes on in the kids section. So the more that we get those grandparents and those great grandparents engaged, and I would, if I was to show Meemaw that, she would.
My grandpa didn't believe me. I had to respectfully. I was like, Grandpa, I just need you to look, because he was like, "There's no way." He didn't believe me. I was like, "I need you to look." Right. And when he looked, he started crying.
Yeah.
So hopefully our next podcast will be talking about what transpired from this, and hopefully it's good things.
I'm hopeful.
And the last thing I want to close with, Leah is starting her own podcast. It'll be coming out in January, and it's centered around homeschool, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So for all of you who are interested in homeschool or currently in homeschool, check Leah out.
It's called Homeschooling for the Rest of Us.
Homeschooling for the Rest of Us.
And it launches in January.
I have no doubt it'll be phenomenal.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on today, and we will follow up and see where this takes us.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you,
very
Leah.
much.
No problem.
Appreciate it.